So, I wanted to share a little bit about my birth story. And it's been 7 months. So, Lily's already 7 months. So, I thought I would share it. Yeah, it's just really interesting how my beliefs completely shifted from one end to the other. So, yeah, I wanted to share a little bit about my experience, how it changed. And so, the plan was so I had a midwife and I also hired a doula. Plan was a home birth, and of course I wanted everything natural. So everything natural according to what the doula believed, and this is what I would follow, is because so a home birth, so I thought the comfort of my home would be best. And so nothing would be pushed at the hospital, whether it was epidural, induction, C-section, because like that, it was the last thing also that I wanted was C-section. And I would tell people even at work, like, okay, the biggest fear of mine is C-section, as long as I don't have C-section. So I was open to like having epidural if I needed it, having induction if I needed it. And even with like the membrane sweeps, the cervical checks, the doula did not recommend that. So I was like, no, it's bad. I shouldn't do that. Why was the epidural bad? The epidural is bad because that affects the baby. Also induction because that's like not natural. So all of these reasons why I wanted a natural birth and I didn't want anything that was unnatural. After having a C-section, what I think after having a C-section, I am not scared of having a C-section anymore after going through that experience. And it is not as scary as people say it is, even though I actually halfway through the surgery after when baby Lily was out, I was starting to feel more pain than usual. And they told me like feeling pulling and pressure is normal. So I thought actually was normal, but I was actually, in a lot more pain than I was supposed to feel. And it's funny because like I actually don't remember much after because I guess just the drugs knocked me out. Anyways, when that time came for me to actually so I was over the 40 weeks, over my due date, and I was waiting to have this natural birth. And I remember even hitting 38 weeks, I was like, I felt kind of like ready for this to happen now. I remember I got everything last checked. So the ultrasound at 36 weeks, so blood test, everything, was okay. Besides that, I had like a little bit of low ferritin. And I was taking 3 pills a day. Baby was estimated around 7 pounds. And anyway, so then at 38 weeks, I remember I was just like, okay, like, let's get ready. So I got the bags ready, And for that 2 weeks, from 38 to 40 plus weeks, so it ended up being 3 weeks of waiting, the anxiety buildup of waiting for baby to come and waiting for this to happen, wondering if my water's going to break or not, or, what, I don't know how it's all going to happen, right? And I had the encouragement of the doula that I hired. Going over the 40 weeks, I just had enough. So I ended up it was like almost 41 weeks now. And I remember with the midwives, I had the induction booked just in case, because I was like, there's no way I'm not going to go over it. And I honestly was like, no, the anxiety of waiting and stuff like that, even though the doula is like encouraging me, telling me it's fine to go over 42 weeks and all that. And honestly, doing the research now, like after having baby, it's not right, because after like about 42 weeks, I think the placenta starts deteriorating on its own, because you're meant to like have baby out at 40 weeks. And that's why there's a due date. And that's why midwives and stuff and doctors are more strict on due dates because of that. And some people might be like, no, it's fine, whatever. And babies are given birth after due date and things like that, fine. And I know whatever people's beliefs are, but I don't believe it's fine, because just going through what I've gone through. Oh yeah, and backtrack up. So I think it was like a 38 weeks appointment or something. And the doula never recommended a membrane sweep and a cervical check. She says, don't ever, whatever it causes, no one should be poking in there and cause infection. That's the reason why I said no at the first time. And I think it was my 39th week appointment, or 39 weeks. And I was just like, I want to know. So at my midwife appointment, I was like, yes, can you check? But I said no to the membrane sweep because I was worried about that, and I said, just check me. And then she was like, oh, you're very like hard still and very, very narrow, and she couldn't even check me because it was like, she's like, I can't even see if you're dilated a little bit, but that would mean you're not, because you're just like up high too much. And this should be right away a warning sign that no one ever warned me about, that there's such a thing as a narrow, long cervix, where that it takes actually longer for labor and delivery. And what ends up happening is, because you're progressing way too long, it ends up being a C-section. And I had no idea about this, okay, until after. And that is something that some people should be aware of their own body. Women should be aware of their own body, that, hey, like, know your body. What's going to happen? Are you able to give birth naturally? So on the other hand, if you have a short cervix, you're likely to have like preterm labor or early labor. And that can be also dangerous too, because it's like you're very low. And there's other dangers to that, but not getting into that, because I just had the problem with the narrow. And also, if you, after having C-section or being pregnant, having a baby naturally, your actually cervix can get lower after. So it's not like I won't be able to have like a vaginal birth for the next one. I might be able to, because things change down there. And I remember after like 38 weeks, I became more emotional, and I was just like, I don't know if I can do this. I had my doubts and stuff like that. And I was like, I have to pay the rest to the doula. And I just didn't want to turn her down, to be honest, because at the time. And also, like, the dream was to have everything natural, right? Because I wanted to do everything natural. And whatever, if I was going to go through pain for 24 hours, I was like, I'm fine. But I think my limit is like one night of no sleep. So I did know like my limitations, and I was like, no, then after that, I'm going to go to the hospital, go for an epidural kind of thing. And sometimes it's really important actually to trust sometimes your feelings. You have like this God-given like gut feeling of like this feeling of like something's off, I don't think I'm going to be able to do this. And that's what my feeling was, where I was just like, I don't think I'm going to be able to like have a natural birth. And like finally when the day came, when I was like, I guess like the mucus plug and stuff. And then the thing is, like, I was really worried, is like also no one else was worried around me as I began to bleed. So I was like bleeding, and I was like, this is not normal. I've never heard anyone bleeding, and it's not normal. It's not good. It's something to be worried about. But they're like, oh, it might be okay if you're bleeding just a little bit, and honestly, it was a bad sign of something's going on. So I'm a day of almost 41 weeks, right? This happened a day before 41 weeks. Anyways, I go for an ultrasound to check everything, and they're like estimated her at 9 pounds, and I was like, that's really big. No one else was worried. The ultrasound lady said, oh, it's just an estimate. It's not usually always right. So anyways, there were a lot of warning signs for me that I'm not going to be able to have natural birth. And so I remember like the doula spent the night with me when I was just constantly in pain. And, not knowing what contractions were, I believe it wasn't normal, because I kept having constant pain. Like it was every 1 minute, every 2 minutes, and I was like, this hurts and I'm bleeding, and why, And so the doula spent the night with me, and she was just like, saying, oh, every contraction has a purpose. She was praying for me. And, I thought I was doing the right thing. And by, somehow I am dilating, and this is all good signs. But I remember I was just constantly in doubt, and I was just like not feeling good. And I was just trying to be positive. I was trying so hard to be positive and like... But anyways, so this was like maybe, I don't know, 18, 20 hours or something like that. Can't even remember now, but it was like all day, all night. And the midwife finally checked me, and I said, I'm going to get checked. I could have got checked earlier, but I was like, no, I'll wait, because, with the pain and stuff. And then, you're supposed to dilate it the longer the pain. And so when she said you were like I'm 1 centimeter, like she came in the next day, and then I was like 1 centimeter. I was so like oh my gosh, how much pain I was in. All night I was not sleeping, and I'm only 1 centimeter. I was so disappointed, right? No one's telling me, hey, you have a long, narrow cervix. This is going to take longer. Research, you will see that it's going to take longer. And also, it doesn't help when she ended up being 10 pounds and 11 ounces. So even if it's a big, giant baby and you have a long, narrow cervix, that's going to be like almost like very painful. Anyways, I don't want to say impossible, but like it's going to be very painful. Something's going to go wrong. Something's going to happen. So anyways, I ended up having a memory sweep. The midwife did the memory sweep to me at 4 centimeters. So she opened me at 4 centimeters. And then later I was just like, it's making me bleed more. I'm having more pain. I want to go to the hospital. So she said, come to the hospital. So for an epidural. So, you know, that's something that I originally didn't want, right? An epidural. And what I think of an epidural, it's not scary. The needle did not hurt me. And I was happy. I was happy to get some pain relief. Went to the hospital and I felt better. I had a better feeling that this is where I should be, you know? And it was just like, you know, you would think like I want a natural, everything natural to avoid epidural that might affect baby's heartbeat, right? That's the reason why I didn't want it. Like the main thing. It wasn't about me or whatever, or the whole side effects to you can get paralyzed or whatever. So anyways, it was like over 24 hours now, probably like 28 hours. I finally got the epidural and then night was approaching. And I remember getting checked after, I think it was like 6 hours, or was it, 8 maybe now? 8 hours, around 6 to 8 hours. And the midwife said, you haven't dilated at all. And then she also said, like, your contractions should be stronger, and they're not because they're, you know, they have that screen that's showing it up. And I was like, that's weird, right? So I was kind of like, oh man, this is not good. And then after, so this was happening when Lily's heart rate was being really high. So her normal heart rate was like at 140. And it was, for some reason, it kept going to 170 and it'd be like really high. And you'd see like on the screen, like, you know, really high heartbeat. And I started getting a lot of pain on my upper stomach. Also, I've never dropped too. So I think that was a sign where baby never dropped. And she was still really high up there. And so I was getting a lot of pain, like, and I was always getting a lot of heartburn, especially the last 2 weeks of pregnancy. And the heartburn was just really killing me, and I wasn't able to eat at all. And they did a blood test on me, and I had low hemoglobin, which is like low blood count, and low platelets, which is like low blood clotting. And so that was a sign that I was like bleeding out. Those are really bad signs. So her heart rate was really high and I wasn't able to like lay flat. So I was like more elevated, and I was like, she's like trying to come out on the top, like the top of my stomach, and I'm having so much pain. Like, and she's just like, oh, that's weird. You know, like midwife didn't even know what's going on. So anyways, when the baby has a low heart rate, that would be considered a baby in distress, and usually an emergency C-section is needed right away. But in my case, her heart rate was really, really high. And I would say it's not a distress where the baby is dying, but it is a sign of baby is in distress. And I felt like she wanted to come out up here, out of my stomach, upper stomach, and she was in distress. So anyway, so the midwife called in the surgeon, the guy that does the C-sections, and he checked me and he said, baby's head is, yes, very big. Because my worry was, I told him, like, I think she's too big. And so he checked me. He said, yeah, you have a narrow pelvis area and baby is really still high up there. I can feel her head really big. So what I decided was, I was like, no, I want to have a C-section, because I'm like, I think like if I give birth to her, naturally, I think she might like get stuck, you know, like, cause she's too big. And I just had this bad feeling that, you know, she would be able to get stuck, or like her shoulder will be stuck. Cause like, I've just heard so many stories, you know, or, you know, they will need to like vacuum her out, use forceps, whatever it is. And that it could just be more traumatizing for her, affect her more if it's that way than C-section. So I felt like I yes, I wanted C-section. And so, we got, I was in the waiting for that, and it still took like another 6 hours of that. So I had to wait another 6 hours. So I wasn't sleeping for another 6 hours, because this was like at 12 a.m. And then my surgery actually ended up being at 7 a.m. So I guess that's 7 hours of waiting. Yeah. And then I would say C-section is like a crazy experience, because kind of it's scary, but at the same time it happens so fast that you don't really have time to think. And you're like laying, but like how they like move you, and like you don't know what's going on. But also, like, my midwife knew that I really wanted a natural birth, and I was planning something so natural. So she was like, oh, we can try induction and, try that instead. Even so, like at 6 a.m., she decided to actually like check me again to see if I was dilating on my own, and I wasn't again. So I was stuck for like over 24 hours, being stuck at the what she swept me with the 4 centimeters. So I don't know if this was also like a feeling before I was going to the C-section. I asked like, oh, can I be knocked out, or do I have to be awake? And maybe this was like because I had a feeling like something's going to go wrong, and something did go wrong. So it was about halfway through the C-section. So they took Lily out like really quick, like within like 5 minutes, it felt like. And so I was able to see her, and I remember I was just like, I'm feeling weird. Like, I'm feeling really, really weird. And they told me like pulse and pressure is normal. I was feeling a lot of pain, and I was just like, oh, this is really bad pain. Like, this is more pain than I was feeling with the contractions and everything. And I was like, this is bad. And so the midwife realized, like, she actually was grabbing my hand, and I was like squeezing it. And I thought it was like my husband's, but I was like, oh, it's her hand that I'm squeezing. And then she ended up telling them like, oh, she's actually feeling more than she should. And they asked me, and I don't remember. They asked me like, oh, how bad is your pain out of 1 to 10? And I said like a 10. And it's funny because I don't remember. And so anyways, then they asked me again, and I said like a 4. And then I just don't remember anything. And then I just remember being waking up, and like I was shaking and stuff like that. So I just wanted to say that I didn't know why I was feeling that pain after, Lily coming out, and I didn't feel any pain before that. It was like pretty much after when they took the placenta, and then they found some cysts. So that's the pain that I was feeling. I was feeling like a ripping my skin sensation, and it was really, really painful because that area where they were ripping those cysts out, it wasn't numb. And so that's what the pain I was feeling. I remember like even when they wheeled me out of the surgery room and they put Lily beside me, I still felt like happy, even though I felt like really numb from all the drugs. And then after, I was just like, it probably was like 4 hours after surgery, I was like, when can I walk? When can I walk? Because, I was like bedridden. I wasn't able to do anything. I wasn't able to get up. And I really wanted to get up, but they're like, no, you had to wait like 8 hours or whatever, how long I had to wait. And, I thought like, oh, I've seen those videos of people getting up after surgery, after C-section, and, they weren't able to walk, and they were like, needing help, someone to hold them. And I didn't have that problem. I was just like, no, I'm going to get up myself. I'm going to walk to the bathroom myself, and I did. And I was like, oh, you know what? It's not that bad. Like maybe like the getting up and down part was like, oh, you want to like hold, yourself down there. And then that was like the worst part. But walking was fine. I was able to walk. I don't feel dizzy. I didn't feel nauseous. I know some people feel like they puke or they feel nauseous and stuff like that. I had none of that. I was more like numb. Even coming out of the surgery, I was like, I thought like I wouldn't be able to move my legs. And I was like, when I was laying, I was like, I can move my legs. Like I can probably walk. So anyways, even going through all of this, I would say it wasn't a traumatizing experience for me. And I was like, you know what, C-section isn't as bad. Even though I felt more pain, it was short-lived pain comparing to like over 24 hours of contractions. And I was like, I would just skip that part, go to C-section. Oh my goodness. Like, I was just like, there I was suffering so long. Like if there's the suffering, like I would choose, it would be like a short suffering, a quick suffering, than a long suffering. Cause like the C-section one, the feeling the pain and stuff like that was short-lived, and comparing to not sleeping all night, and it was like I don't know how many hours, 30 hours or something. But But yeah, I hope you enjoy my story, and also like remember that someone else's experience doesn't mean it will be your experience. And yeah, just trust that your God-given like gut feeling or initiative or whatever you want to call, like a feeling, just that feeling. If you choose an epidural, I would recommend an epidural. I would recommend induction. Like if you see that it's your first time, if you're not like sure how, how you'll be opening up, do the cervix checks, get everything checked during that time. I would recommend a membrane sweep. Some people always say, oh, it doesn't really help. It can make you bleed. But sometimes, like, if you're getting closer to due date and you want to be, on your due date, it's great. If there's any complications, I would say, hey, C-section isn't as bad. But anyways, I think I should end here. I hope you enjoyed my video.